I need a teenage bride. I'm about to start looking for a wife, so let's break up. Suddenly, Michael's words in the fancy restaurant almost made me drop the wine glass I was holding.
What do you mean?
I hadn't expected him to bring up breaking up, especially not in such a cheerful tone, after we hadn't seen each other for a while and he'd even taken me to this fancy restaurant.
Come on, you're in your 30s, right? I just think I'd prefer a younger woman if I'm going to get married. Plus, long distance just isn't for me.
Flushed with alcohol, Michael casually said it as if he was just stepping out to the convenience store.
What? Is this some kind of joke?
The words got stuck in my throat.
But Michael, you told me to wait.
I remembered the words Michael once said to me, "I'll definitely marry you, so wait for me," and tears welled up in my eyes. I could hear the sound of the path to my happiness crumbling before me. My name is Julie Johnson. I'm turning 32 this year. I work at a fashion company, a dream job for me since my youth, and I'm the manager of one of the stores. Every day, I'm busy recommending the perfect clothes to our customers. Many customers prefer not to be approached in the store. But I still try to increase our profits by engaging them in conversation. Now, the store I manage boasts the highest sales in the country.
Julie, you're so lucky. You're good at your job and have a boyfriend of 10 years. Your future is secure.
A colleague said to me enviously on our way home from a manager training at the headquarters. Indeed, I have a boyfriend of 10 years, Michael Taylor. He works at a major insurance company. Michael and I met in our first year of college and started dating in our senior year. I always thought it was a one-sided crush until he unexpectedly confessed to me. I remember being so happy that I cried. Since then, we've spent 10 years together as a couple. But 3 years ago, in the spring, Michael was transferred to Chicago by his company. I was sad, but it was a promotion, so I happily saw him off to Chicago. Opposite to my feelings, Michael seemed excited about his promotion and left for Chicago with high spirits. Looking back, I should have expressed my feelings more honestly then and done everything to keep him here. But it's too late for regrets. After Michael's transfer, as expected, I felt very lonely. At the age of 29, many of my friends from college and work were getting married. Some were even starting to have children and were busy with parenting. I felt left behind and a bit anxious. I wanted to contact Michael every night but managed to hold back, calling him about once every 3 days. Maybe sensing my feelings, Michael came back to New York for my 30th birthday and threw a grand celebration. He took me to the fanciest hotel in town and gave me a necklace from my favorite jewelry brand. I was so happy.
Julie, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. But I'm sure I want to marry you. Right now, my career is really taking off, and I'm enjoying it. So, I might have to make you wait a bit longer, but I promise we'll spend our lives together.
Michael said, smiling brightly like a comic book hero, showing off his charming dimples.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll wait. I can't imagine being with anyone but you. So, I'll keep waiting. Good luck with your work.
I always wanted to be a cute, demure girlfriend in front of Michael. So, I suppressed my desire to get married soon and respected his wishes. Michael seemed satisfied with my response and drank several beers. Our faces flushed, we looked into each other's eyes, reaffirming our feelings for each other. While working in New York, I always thought about Michael, who told me to wait for him. I was asked out to dinner and even confessed to by male colleagues and supervisors. Some men insisted on dating even if marriage wasn't on the table. But I steadfastly turned down any man who approached me. With a boyfriend like Michael, whom I'd promised a future, I couldn't even consider a casual relationship with another man. I've loved Michael for so many years. My feelings weren't going to shift to someone else. Like a loyal dog, I kept waiting for my master. As my peers rushed into marriages, invitations to friends' and colleagues' weddings increased. Each time, I imagined myself in a wedding dress next to Michael, longing to marry him soon. It had been nearly 3 years since our long-distance relationship began. Lately, Michael was either really busy or my calls went to voicemail. Initially, I called every 3 days, then it dwindled to once a week, then once a month. Even my texts went unread. There was a time when he'd reply within 30 minutes, but now it could take days. I tried not to worry, thinking he was just busy, but not hearing from him even on our anniversary was strange. I didn't want to nag Michael about our dwindling communication, but today was our 10th anniversary. Feeling lonely, I called him as the date changed.
Hey, Michael?
I said when it seemed like he answered. But I didn't hear anything from his side. Maybe a bad signal? I tried again, hello? Then I heard a faint woman's voice in the background. It wasn't clear. And I couldn't tell if it was a conversation. Listening intently, I suddenly heard a woman's indiscreet voice. Shocked, I quickly hung up. What was that? Just my imagination? I desperately tried to convince myself. Maybe Michael was just watching a movie at home, got too absorbed, and forgot to call me. The phone must have accidentally connected. It had to be. I convinced myself of this. The power of self-suggestion is incredible. I managed to convince myself that the voice I heard during my call with Michael was just a mistake. The next day, surprisingly, Michael called.
Sorry about yesterday. I had to work late and couldn't call. It was our 10-year anniversary, wasn't it? I'm sorry it's late, but thanks for these 10 years. Julie, you're the best woman for me.
I could picture him apologizing over the phone. But him quickly apologizing and reassuring me reminded me of how wonderful he is.
No, it's okay. You were busy, right? I'm sorry for calling so many times. I'm really happy to be your girlfriend. Thank you.
Love is indeed blind. Just hearing from Michael made me forget all about the previous night's call.
Thanks to you too. By the way, you called yesterday, right? I was asleep, and I think I accidentally answered the call with my arm. Did you hear anything strange?
Huh? I was surprised when Michael brought up yesterday's phone call. Instantly, the sound of the woman's voice came to mind, but by that time, I had convinced myself it was my misunderstanding, so I replied, no, nothing special.
Okay, that's good then. Julie, I'm really sorry for always making you wait. I love you.
With that, Michael hung up the phone. Michael's really working hard. The loneliness of our long-distance relationship wasn't just hard on me. Michael must also want to talk and see me more. But right now, his career is at a crucial phase. I don't want to be a burden on him. I waited, dreaming like a young girl, for Michael's work to go well so he could come to me for marriage in the best way possible. The week of your birthday, I've got some time off. I'll be coming back to New York, so let's go out for dinner. Michael said, making me overjoyed a week before my 32nd birthday.
Really? I'm so happy. I'm looking forward to it.
Busy Michael was making time to see me. With the recent lack of communication, my excitement was at its peak. Plus, Michael had recently been promoted to sales manager. With his promotion, maybe he was going to propose. I couldn't contain the excitement in my heart. On the upcoming Wednesday, which luckily was my day off, I dressed up and waited for Michael. When I greeted him at the station, arriving by train, seeing my long-distance lover after so long made me smile uncontrollably. We spent the day like we used to when we weren't long-distance, watching a movie and visiting a newly opened mall. Michael seemed different from before, responding to my excited chatter with a flat, "Oh, that's fun."
Are you feeling okay? You seem off. No, just not used to being back, that's all.
Strange, I laughed. And Michael finally cracked a smile. We continued our date normally and decided to have dinner as it got dark. Actually, I've made a reservation at a hotel nearby.
Really?
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay.
Michael took me to a renowned, high-end hotel restaurant everyone knows. I entered, a bit nervous. Because I was in casual clothes. But the waitress greeted us without any disdain, "Table for two under Mr. Taylor, right this way." There was even a reservation card with Mr. Taylor on our table, and I glanced at Michael, thinking how well prepared he was. This place is nice, isn't it? It was featured on TV recently. So, I thought I'd make a reservation.
Yes, it's lovely. I'm starving.
Michael smiled at my comment and quickly ordered our first drink. The food was elegant and delicious, and I felt my face light up with joy. Such a wonderful dinner he planned. Is he going to propose? My hopes soared even higher. So, when we were almost done with our meal and the main dish arrived, I couldn't believe the words that came out of Michael's mouth.
You know, I've been wanting to talk to you about something for a while.
What is it? Michael had his fourth drink and was completely drunk. He glanced around quickly, making sure no one else was around. Then, he took a deep breath.
I want a teen bride. I'm gonna start looking for one, so let's break up.
I nearly dropped my wine glass in shock at Michael's sudden declaration.
What do you mean?
I had never expected him to bring up a breakup so cheerfully, especially after he had taken me to a fancy restaurant for our long-awaited reunion. I had even thought he might propose. For me, who had been expecting such a proposal, this was a bolt from the blue.
'Cause, you know, you're in your 30s, right? I just think I'd prefer a younger girl if I'm getting married. Plus, long distance is just not for me.
Michael, his face flushed with alcohol, spoke as if he was saying something as casual as "I'm just popping out to the store."
Is this some kind of prank?
The words stuck in my throat.
But Michael, you told me to wait.
I remembered Michael's words from the past, "Wait for me, I'll definitely marry you," and my eyes filled with tears. I remembered the days I spent waiting for Michael, the man I loved. It was never easy. I had wanted to end our long-distance relationship immediately. But I had waited because I wanted to marry Michael.
This has to be a joke, right?
I heard the sound of the path to my happiness crumbling.
Sorry, but I've made up my mind. I've been keeping Natalie waiting for too long. So today, finally telling you how I really feel has cleared my mind.
Indifferent to my sadness, Michael spoke with a sense of relief, now that he had accomplished his goal. Natalie must be Michael's affair partner. That's right. The voice I heard from Michael's phone call the other day must have been Natalie's. Thinking about it made me incredibly frustrated.
Michael, you told me to wait, and now you're just going to leave me that easily?
I felt embarrassed that I had clung to such a man, but at that moment, the reality was too shocking, and I couldn't help but think if there was any way to make Michael stay.
People change their minds. You know, getting married in your 30s, you can't have many kids, right? That's why Natalie, being only 19, is so exciting for the future. Plus, teenage skin is beautiful, the reactions so genuine and cute. I have to go back now to prepare for my marriage with Natalie, so I'll settle the bill.
Thanks for everything, Julie. Bye. Before I could even accept it, Michael hurriedly left the hotel as if escaping. I was so overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events that I just sat there, dazed, for a while.
Are you okay, ma'am?
The waitress came over and snapped me back to reality.
Yes, I'm fine. Sorry if I caused any disturbance. Not at all.
I wondered why I was the one apologizing as I left the restaurant with shaky steps. The shock was too much, and I couldn't think straight. That day, perhaps also because of the alcohol, I stumbled onto the train and made my way home. Once I entered my room, I finally broke down and cried uncontrollably. It was unforgivable. But Michael had already gone back to Chicago, and there was no more involvement with him. Spending any more time thinking about Michael, who had betrayed me, seemed pointless. Yet, my heart still harbored feelings for him. The thought of him still hurt, even though I knew better. It would be a while before I could think about love again. I was already 32. Just like Michael said, in the dating world, younger people are more sought after. I couldn't help but feel that no one would need someone like me anymore. For now, I decided to just go to bed. I could think about tomorrow when it came. That was the only way I could keep my sanity. In the following days, I focused solely on my work. My best coworker, concerned about me, invited me to karaoke. Singing at the top of my lungs seemed to ease my feelings a bit, and I couldn't be more grateful to them. Working at the store, I sometimes felt down seeing couples or married customers. But I knew I couldn't keep looking down, or happiness would slip away. I tried my best to stay positive. At first, it was just a facade, but gradually, my spirits genuinely lifted, and I found joy in my work again. During this time, I noticed a male customer who frequently visited my store.
You come here often. I'm glad you like our clothes.
I said to him. He blushed slightly and replied cheerfully, "Yes, I find myself drawn here." I was pleased that he liked the clothes I adored, but then he shyly looked down and said, "Actually, it's the salesperson I'm interested in." I couldn't help but ask, "Really?" thinking I might have misheard. But he looked up confidently and asked, "Can I come to see you again?" My heart raced at his words. "Yes, please do visit again." I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy. Actually, I was thrilled. But considering our customer-salesperson relationship, I restrained my emotions and responded calmly. After receiving my answer, he smiled happily and said, "Then I'll come again," before leaving. I found myself excitedly wondering when this man, whose name I didn't even know, would visit next. 3 years had passed since then. Now, I have quit my job at the apparel company and opened my own store. The store occupied the first floor, with my home on the second and third floors. Thanks to introducing the store creation process on video sharing sites before opening, many customers visited my shop. Most of them were young, so I promoted on social media targeting young people, making my store popular enough to become a topic of conversation. I even got media coverage from a TV station. It was hard to believe this was all happening to me, but every time my store was mentioned on TV or social media, I savored the fact that it was gaining popularity. I was living fulfilling days, but one Sunday night, a call came to my store. I was busy tallying the week's sales and thought not to answer the phone since it was past closing time. However, the phone rang again after a brief pause. This happened about 5 times. Finally, after finishing the calculations, I picked up the receiver. "Hello, this is Julie's," I said, using the store name I derived from my own. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Thinking it might be a wrong or prank call, I said hello again. Then I heard a familiar voice, "Hey, long time no see." It was none other than Michael's voice. Why was he calling my store? I hadn't told Michael about opening it. In fact, I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Feeling my whole body rejecting Michael, I deliberately said, "Who are you again?" "Huh?" A dumbfounded voice came from the other end. "It's me, Michael. We were together for 10 years, you can't have forgotten me." His repetition of me made me want to point out it sounded like a scam. "So, what do you want?" I had nothing to talk about with Michael, and wanted to hang up as soon as possible. "That's right, Julie, I kept you waiting. Looks like I can finally marry you. You've been waiting all this time, right? You always said you wanted to marry me. I've broken up with Natalie, so I guess I can marry you now." Michael's voice, laced with a sneer, sounded dark and detached from reality. I was disgusted by his words and tone, feeling a chill run down my spine. Marry Michael? Why was he bringing this up now? And his condescending attitude of doing me a favor by marrying me was unacceptable. How dare he propose marriage to me after all this time? What? What are you talking about? Why should I have to marry someone like you? I would never marry a man like you. I remembered how heartbroken and frustrated I was when Michael broke up with me. This was my chance to get back at him. "What did you say?" Michael's voice rose in anger after hearing my response. "Do you realize what you're saying? I'm offering to marry you, even though you're in your mid-30s. There's no reason for you to refuse." His shouting was grating and loud in my ears. "Are you even listening to yourself? Why should I marry a man who dumped me for such a terrible reason? I have no intention of ever dealing with a man like you again." I snapped back, and there was a moment of silence from Michael on the other end. Just then, a person came downstairs from the second-floor living quarters to the store. He must have heard my voice. That person, Steve, my husband, looked at me with concern. Steve was the man I met 3 years ago when I was managing the store. The male customer who said he was interested in the salesperson. Steve visited my store several times as he had promised. When Steve confessed he had feelings for me, I was torn about what to do. After all, he was a customer. Could a store manager like me, let alone an employee, really harbor personal feelings for a customer? Confused, I consulted a coworker who encouraged me with a nonchalant tone, "If you're really into him, why not?" Knowing how broken I was after being dumped by Michael, my coworker must have wanted to cheer me up. So, I started seeing Steve outside of work, eventually leading to a relationship, and we got married a year ago. Now, he's a staff member in my store, helping me run it. He's truly a kind and reliable husband.
You see, actually,
I covered the phone receiver and told Steve about Michael's relentless calls. Steve looked surprised, then asked me to hand him the phone. I wondered what he planned to say. After I gave him the phone, Steve switched it to speaker and started talking. "Hello, this is Steve Smith. Michael Taylor, isn't it?
Long time no see."
Steve greeted him politely.
"Long time no see?
Who are you?" Michael sounded confused. I didn't understand why Steve would say "long time no see" to Michael either. Sensing our confusion, Steve cleared his throat and began to explain.
"Mr. Michael Taylor, have you forgotten about me? 2 years ago, you were so eager to sell me insurance. But it was so expensive, I had to decline. Curious about the high cost, I researched and found your company's website and reviews, which mentioned affordable and good value insurance.
That's odd, I thought.
So, I contacted them, and it turned out you were quoting inflated insurance costs." "What, you're that guy from back then?"
Hearing Steve's story seemed to trigger a memory for Michael, who clearly started to panic on the other end of the line. I was puzzled, not understanding what Steve was talking about. Then Steve elaborately explained the incident between him and Michael.
"When he tried to sell me insurance, I thought something was off, so I contacted his company, as I mentioned. The company, upon learning he was engaging in fraud, investigated his past sales records. It turned out he wasn't just deceiving me, he had been telling various people exaggerated costs and pocketing the extra money. Worse still, he targeted housewives and elderly people who were not savvy about insurance. Essentially, he was collecting false insurance fees from customers and stealing that money. Naturally, his actions led to his dismissal from the company."
Steve's revelation was shocking to me. Michael, who seemed so dedicated to his job, was actually committing fraud. Deceiving Steve and others for money?
"It's because of you that I ended up like this. Natalie was fooling around with another man and even had a child. As soon as I lost my job, she left me for him. After all I did for her. And now I hear Julie is doing well with her own store, even on TV. I thought marrying her would secure my future. Please, Julie, marry me. You're the only one left for me. You're the only one who truly loved me. I'm sorry for what happened 3 years ago. I promise to make you happy. So."
I felt nauseous hearing Michael's pleas. He got fired for his own fraudulent actions. Besides, Natalie's affairs have nothing to do with me or Steve. She was probably flaky from the start. Michael always thought I still loved him, which angered me the most. I looked at Steve next to me and nodded firmly. Steve was the only one I needed in my life. I wanted nothing to do with Michael, the man who abandoned me. Clenching my hot palms, I unleashed all my anger into the phone. "Are you stupid?" My voice was so cold, it surprised even me. I could imagine Michael on the other end, visibly shuddering.
"What do you mean, stupid?"
Typically, the short-tempered Michael immediately got angry, barking back in a pathetic manner. I was ready to teach Michael a harsh lesson about reality.
"The stupid thing is that you think I still love you.
Who do you think you are?
I'm married to Steve now. I'm happy. The world has turned upside down compared to when I was with you, enduring a long-distance relationship, waiting for you, and then being discarded. Thanks to Steve, I've gradually forgotten about you. And now, what? You probably called me after seeing me on TV, thinking I have money, right?
It's so obvious. You don't love me.
You just show up when it's convenient after dumping me like that. And you think I'd have feelings for you? What a delusional jerk. You've lost your job, your woman, and now this. It suits you, a life like yours. You get it, right? I have absolutely no lingering feelings for you. So, don't bother me anymore. If you do, I'll report you to the police. Goodbye.
As I rapidly unleashed all my anger, Michael protested, "Hey, wait a second." But I ignored his voice and hung up. Michael's pathetic voice, which had echoed throughout the store, fell silent, as if it had never been there. I relaxed the tense strings of my nerves, leaning into Steve.
I'm sorry. I got a bit carried away. No, it's understandable. Anyone would be confused by such a call. Julie, thank you again for choosing me. I will make you happy, I promise.
Steve's kind words seeped into my weary heart like a vitamin boost. Ah, I'm so glad I married this man. Ironically, it's because of my relationship with Michael that I can feel this way. I, too, want to make Steve happy for the rest of his life. Several days passed since then, and Michael stopped calling the store. But instead, I noticed a suspicious figure lurking around the shop several times. Dressed in black with sunglasses and a mask, a classic suspicious look, I didn't hesitate to call the police. It turned out to be Michael, trying to forcibly take me back.
Hey, wait! I know that woman. I just want to talk to her.
Yeah, right. We'll listen to your story at the station.
Damn it!
Michael, caught red-handed, was dragged away by the police, his excuses falling on deaf ears. I later learned about Michael's fate from a college friend who was still in touch with him. After being thoroughly interrogated by the police, Michael was fined several $1,000s. Unable to pay because he was jobless, he had to borrow money. On top of that, he had debts from the money he spent on his ex-wife, Natalie. With no one willing to hire him, even for part-time work, due to his fraud at his previous company. He had to resort to menial jobs, earning just enough for pocket money, but nowhere near enough to pay off his debts. The interest kept accumulating, and he soon couldn't even afford his rent, forcing him to look for live-in work. However, failing repeatedly in interviews, Michael ended up living in a park. His parents, who once hoped he would marry me, had given up on him after he left me for a younger woman. It seems that Michael's parents had always hoped he would marry me, but they gave up on him after he left me for a younger woman. It's all a result of his own actions. Imagining Michael enduring the wind, rain, heat, and cold while living in a park is pitiful, but it seems fitting for what he brought upon himself. On the other hand, I recently discovered I'm pregnant with our first child. Despite my age, Steve and I were overjoyed, jumping around with excitement. I won't be able to work at the store for a while, but Steve reassured me, leave it to me. Having such a reliable employee and husband, I feel incredibly happy. I want to continue living this bright and joyous life, cherishing this certain happiness.